Mr. Hunter, the northern migration of African Americans following the Civil War helped make Atlantic City what it is today, and also at the time one of the most black cities of the North by the early 1900s. Many were freed slaves who saw certain opportunities in Atlantic City, opportunities that couldn't really be found in other northern cities at the time. Was Atlantic City a forward-thinking city, in your opinion, in terms of how it offered certain job, living, and even tourism possibilities for African Americans at the time?
Well, it was better than being in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi picking cotton, I tell you that. You had an opportunity to come to Atlantic City and become a laborer or work in the back of the house of the hotel or become a carpenter to learn a trade. They had a school in Atlantic City back at the early 20s. It was called a lady ran it by what's her name? Hannah P. Lowe's mother, Hannah P. Lowe. She ran the almost like a normal school. It was located in back of the Indiana School. And they taught the women there how to become maids, how to become seamsters, millinery, to work in all these different areas. And the men went to another school down the other side, the old, right on the corner of Kentucky and on Arctic Avenue, where they learned some trades about building and so forth. And they would come and be the builders and the electricians and the carpenters. There's a family in town with the very first license for electricity, the Washington family, or the Jones family. I don't know anybody knows them in town, but they had the first electric license to do electrical work in Atlantic City. So that was a very important part of it. And then came along the YMCA. And when the YMCA came along, that became a job market for kids in the North to come, from the South to come north so they can get a summer job. And they would get to town earlier than the kids who went to school here in Atlantic City. They got the jobs first. So a lot of those students came up and became college professors and college students, the whole 9 yards. And that was part of the major part of the labor force for Atlantic City. Because back in those days, what you had to work on what kind of shift? Split shift. Split shift, yeah. Back in the old days in Atlantic City, you came to work in the morning for breakfast. And after breakfast was served, you went home. After lunch was served, you went home. And then you went home and stayed for a couple of hours. You came back for dinner and turned down. So that was a very difficult job to have to get up in the morning at 5 o'clock and not get home until late after 10 o'clock at night. Hi, Mayor Tweedle.
Ralph,
Yeah.
what was the reaction, and it always got to me, when you go into the Marlboro Blenheim and you would see all these people, the swells and their children, and who would be taking care of their children but a black person? Who would be making their meals? A black person. Who did they trust to go into their rooms and make their beds and straighten up everything? A black person. But a black person was not allowed to go in and have a room there, nor was a Jew allowed to go in and have a room there. We were very restrictive.
But
in
Vicki,
those
that was
early
fabulous
days.
that we couldn't go there because we built our own economy on the north side of town.
I understand that, but the point being that they entrusted you.
Absolutely.
They entrusted you to take care of the most precious possessions, their children, and wouldn't want to sit down and have dinner where you were eating in the next table to where they were. That was one of the sad things, and it took a long time to break that down. That lasted right through the 40s into the 50s.
Yeah, until 54.
That lasted a long time before they finally had to open their doors to let everybody come in.
Even the entertainers.
That's very important because what happened back in 1954 when Brown versus Board of Education, that broke the color barrier, and then the African Americans could no longer have to stay at a rooming house on the north side of town. They could now go up and stay on the other side for $12, where the rooming house on the north side was owned and operated by African Americans. And that's what really changed the configuration of Atlantic City. Integration, to me, changed the complexion of Atlantic City and other cities around our country like you would not believe. Because we no longer were able to control our own destiny, our own dollars. Our dollars are no longer spent on the north side of the town. The dollars are now being spread around. And if you look today in cities like Prince George County down in Maryland, where African Americans still have a major stronghold with their dollars that are spent, whether they're spent it to their mortgage company, their insurance company, their car deal, or whatever, we can no longer do that in Atlantic City. Because what happens, the African Americans who live on the north side of town don't have anybody to spend their money with. So if you earned $100,000 and lived on the north side, you can only probably spend 10% of your money with another African American. And that 10% would probably go to your church, all of you who tied.
And even goldfish, it's lucky maybe, for there's a baby grand piano coming, then I'll start a humming. I have the blues, only hubby dear can cure my terrible blues. Each time he says goodbye, I get those doggone left all alone again blues.